Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a really fascinating taxonomy today, looking at how ancient linguistic traditions and scriptural texts build these highly specific frameworks to categorize human behavior. We're going to unpack a modern infographic that maps out Fawahish, showing exactly how Arabic terminology classifies different moral frameworks and transgressions. Honestly, whether you're a linguist, a historian, or just someone who loves seeing complex information beautifully structured, this provides such an incredible window into ancient classification. Just look at the methodical layout of the source material we're analyzing today. It's literally built like a visual dictionary. Color-coded rows, clear numbering, customized icons. It conveys meaning at a glance, even before you read a single word of the Arabic script. Our job today is to decode exactly what this highly structured framework is telling us about this specific lexicon. Here is our roadmap for the explainer. First, classifying Fawahish in text. Second, bilateral categories defined. Third, multi-party categories defined. Fourth, the umbrella term al-baghi. And finally, scriptural citations in context. Okay, Section 1, classifying Fawahish in text, understanding the infographic's purpose. So, the main header translates directly to classification of sexual transgressions in the Holy Quran. That really sets the stage for us, right? We aren't just looking at some random general list of grievances here. It's a strict, textually based categorization of specific acts. The Arabic word used for these transgressions, or immoralities, is fawahish, and the source material promises to break this broad concept down into its precise constituent parts based entirely on Quranic terminology. Moving right along to Section 2, bilateral categories defined. These are the one-on-one dynamics. The first term we hit is zina. This specifically defines a transgression occurring between a man and a woman. Within this taxonomic framework, you can think of this as the baseline term for a bilateral heterosexual dynamic. Next up is sihak. And notice how the terminology totally shifts based purely on the gender of the participants. This one defines a transgression occurring specifically between two women. And rounding out our bilateral categories is sadumiya, which is defined as a transgression between two men. So with zina, sihak, and sadumiya, the source material systematically categorizes every possible one-on-one gender pairing. It covers the whole shebang for pairs. All right, Section 3, multi-party categories defined. The one-to-many dynamics. Now the dynamic shifts from pairs to groups. The term sifa designates a transgression occurring between one man and multiple women. The language itself demands a completely different identifier the second that group structure changes. Conversely, we have akhdan, which is the exact inverse, one woman and multiple men. The lexicon here doesn't just use some lazy catch-all term for groups. It meticulously distinguishes them based on the specific gender dynamic right at the center of the act. Actually, let's pause for a second to really compare those last two multi-party categories, sifah and akhdan. It is absolutely fascinating to see this level of precision. I mean, a less structured linguistic framework might just use a single word to mean, group transgression. But here, the central figure's gender entirely dictates the terminology. It shows a highly observant, almost legalistic approach to defining social boundaries within the text. Synthesizing these 5 terms really reveals a comprehensive lexicon, from zina for a man and woman, to sihak for 2 women, sadumiya for 2 men, sifa for 1 man and multiple women, and akhdan for 1 woman and multiple men. Basically, every potential geometric shape of these relations gets its very own distinct identifier. There is absolutely zero ambiguity here. This brings us to Section 4, the umbrella term, al-baghi, synthesizing the categories. Now, beneath those 5 specific categories, the document zooms out. It explains that all of these previously listed types, regardless of how many people are involved or what their genders are, they're all encompassed by one single overarching umbrella term, al-baghi. If the first 5 terms are the distinct branches of a tree, well, al-baghi is the trunk. It acts as the ultimate categorizing container, confirming that while the acts are linguistically distinct in their specific details, they belong to the exact same moral class in this framework. Finally, Section 5. Scriptural citations and context, the textual backing. The source material cites 2 specific verses to really ground this terminology in its original scriptural context. The first quote reads, "And do not approach zina. Indeed, it is ever an immorality and is evil as a way." Notice how this citation directly utilizes the terminology from category number 1. It shows us exactly how the word functions within the source text as a strict prohibition.
Then, the second quote provided reads, "Do you commit immorality such as no one has preceded you with from among the worlds?" The Arabic word for immorality used in the original text of this quote actually shares the root for fawahish, linking us right back to the main title of the document. These citations are basically the foundational pillars for the entire taxonomy.
So we've seen how effectively this maps out complex linguistic categories, taking a really broad concept and breaking it down into an incredibly precise, multi-tiered taxonomy. It really makes you think about the power of words, doesn't it? So I'll leave you with this. How does the creation of such highly specific terminology not just describe behavior, but actively shape the historical, legal, and moral frameworks within ancient societies? When every single dynamic has its own specific name, how does that change the way a culture enforces its boundaries? Definitely something to think about.